Hello, welcome to another edition of the Willie Bragg Show. I am your host, Willie Bragg. A couple of days ago, day before yesterday, I was supposed to interview Dolores Pierce from Around the World with Dees and Friends. She was here. I was here, but I had some tech issues with StreamYards, and I've been having issues lately. I don't know if it's the computer, don't know if it's StreamYards itself, but we agree to doing the interview next week. I believe I have that particular issue resolved. So there is that. So anyway, I just want to talk about this 2024 election because hey, some people say it's a long time away, but it's pretty much closer than we think. It's basically here. And I just want to start off with a quote by Jimmy Dore when he said this. And this was like I would say back in 2018, Jimmy Dore said essentially, he said this essentially. He said that they hated Ralph Nader. Liberals hated Ralph Nader. Okay, I'm kind of paraphrasing him, but he did say that liberals hated Ralph Nader because they gave us liberals hated Ralph Nader because he gave us George W. Bush. That's what they said about Ralph Nader. But because of Donald Trump becoming president, you know what happened. They now love George W. Bush, and they still hate Ralph Nader. So, that's what he said. Basically, the liberals hated Ralph Nader because he gave us George W. Bush. Now, liberals love George W. Bush, and they still hate Ralph Nader. I have a problem with that. And if that's not if you don't have a problem with that aspect of the Democratic Party, if you claim to be a progressive, then you're not a progressive. That's the problem with so-called progressives with that particular mindset. It's a mindset that drives me mental. And it's all because of this Trump derangement syndrome. Now, I don't. When I go into this thing about Trump derangement syndrome, I don't want to have it understood that somehow that I'm being soft on Trump. And I do get a little worried that people think that that's the case with me when I do this. And that's not the case. Donald Trump is basically, to me, another Republican. So, you can sit there, the liberals, the shit libs that love to sit there and hate on those that supported Ralph Nader over the years. They can sit there and hate on Ralph Nader all they want, and just go into a frenzy about the man. But they don't understand that what happened in 2000. You had a Democratic Party in the 1990s that behaved Republican-like, and they felt compelled. The Green Party felt compelled to run a candidate that year. Now, I'm going to tell you, you hear Democrats use that Ralph Nader scenario all the time. I mean, they'll use it all the time, and it gets old because it's no longer. I mean, Ralph Nader's no longer relevant if you're into George W. Bush now. You think he's wonderful now. Ralph Nader is irrelevant. And I can't wait to bring that up next time I run across some silly person that will say that. Because, but we're going to talk about Ralph Nader. If the Democrats were not behaving like Republicans to begin with, we wouldn't have that problem. But no. They want the left of the Democratic Party to accept the Democratic Party for being a centrist swamp, to accept the Reagan consensus with just a little bit of liberalism, and usually the type of liberalism that they spoon at you is the liberalism that either don't go far enough or is far too reaching, where it actually makes people angry, and then they're too afraid to go and stand up for American workers. They're afraid to stand up for unions. They're afraid to stand up for health care for all. They're afraid to stand up for those who are in need. But they'll go and suck up to their donors. That's the Democratic Party. And then what ends up happening, you end up creating more Republicans, and people will go and vote Republican. But nobody ever gets mad at the people who go after those who vote Republican. No, you got to get mad at the folks that vote for the Green Party or vote independent, some independent left candidate. That's mental. That is truly mental. So, we're going to go and jump forward into basically, I would say, find my graphic here. Let's jump forward into 2016. That primary, y'all remember it very well. You want to be relevant? This is where it gets relevant. Not Ralph Nader anymore. But they tied this in with Ralph Nader. Bernie Sanders, whether you like it or not, is the new Ralph Nader to a lot of these folks. Bernie Sanders doesn't want to be looked upon as the modern day Ralph Nader. But here's the thing. I have more respect for Ralph Nader than I do Bernie Sanders at this point. Because at least Ralph Nader realized that the Democratic parties are sellouts. Now, Bernie Sanders knows this. He knew this. But because he got blamed for the year 2016 for standing up against this bitch, Hillary Clinton, this cow, he's been vilified by some, and it's gotten to him. It really has gotten to him. So, he's right now, the BernieBros narratives and all of this sort of thing, it bothers him. And they made a victim out of Hillary Clinton when Donald Trump won in 2016. Donald Trump is not a victim now because there's no such a thing as being a billionaire. There's no such thing as being a victim if you're a billionaire. And Hillary Clinton, who's worth $250 million because of all the money they expunged from people with the Clinton Foundation, that fraudulent group, they're not victims either. Blue MAGA and Red MAGA, none of y'all realize Trump couldn't care a thing about you or me. Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton couldn't care about you and me. All they care about is their own power. Remember, Bill and Hillary Clinton were friends with Donald Trump, and they are the ones that encouraged Trump to run for president in 2016. You want to blame somebody for Donald Trump becoming president? Why don't you blame Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton? Why don't you blame those motherfuckers? They're the ones that caused that to happen. But no, you're going to go and blame somebody else. You're going to go and blame BernieBros and all of this sort of thing. And that's what they did. In 2016, who did they blame? They blamed Russia. Oh, Vladimir Putin got Donald Trump in the White House. Jill Stein and Bernie Sanders were Putin puppets. They got him into the White House. Oh, no. And so there are people around that thinks that Bernie Sanders and Jill Stein are as much of a Putin puppet as Donald Trump. Entered the year 2019, and you had a Democratic primaries that took place. And and I've said this before, and I'll say it again, that what I wanted as an outcome in the 2019-2020 primaries was for Bernie Sanders to get the Democratic nomination, when I still had a very faint belief that the Democratic Party could be taken over. Bernie Sanders had a way to almost make me think that was possible. I wanted him to be the presidential candidate. I wanted Tulsi Gabbard to be the running mate. You all heard me say this before. I was obsessed with this duo, this team. It was the dream team that I was obsessed with. I ate this. I ate it. I slept it. I obsessed over it night and day. I talked about it with all my friends to their chagrin. Bernie Sanders, Tulsi Gabbard. It was my obsession to see this ticket take place. And of course, the very ticket I wanted to see take place was the very ticket that did not happen. And the very ticket that I did not want was the ticket that transpired. Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. What a joke. So, and we, just like 2016, we know what happened in the 2020 primaries. And because what Tulsi Gabbard did, she was a campaign surrogate for Bernie Sanders in 2016. And she was vilified. And now everybody thinks that Tulsi Gabbard is a Russian asset. There are people that think she's a tanky. There are people on the right that they're neocons out there, and there are people on the right that think she's a Russian asset and she's a tanky and all of that. The National Review still hates her. Mark Levin denounced her. And then you have corporate Democrats like Hillary Clinton that said the same thing, that she's an Assad apologist, she's a Putin puppet. And then some progressive kind of turned against her because of the whole Bernie Hillary Clinton debacle from 2016, and they sort of needed a scapegoat, so she's the scapegoat. So, and I got some issues with Tulsi, I do, but there's some parts about me where I do have a little bit of empathy for her, even though she's taken some rightward turns on some issues. I disagree with her passionately on some of her more turfy positions in the last couple of years. And I wish that a group of leftists, real leftists, can have a conversation with her and kind of talk some sense into her. Come to the Green Party, Tulsi. That's what I will have to say. You don't need the people of Fox. You don't need them. They're terrible. They're really everything that you purport to be against. So are the Democrats, mind you. You were correct to lead the Democratic Party. And I know you're an independent, but please, whatever you do, don't go into the Republican Party, because you're not going to be happy there either, if you're the kind of person I think you are. So there's that. So, but here's the thing. 2024 elections coming along. So what do we have? We have basically a demented potato running for re-election, Joe Biden. You think I'm excited by this? This excites you? Like the Amazing Atheist said, this guy's like basically a bowl of room temperature oatmeal on a cloudy day. That's Joe Biden in a nutshell. And frankly, I'm very disappointed with people like Kyle Kalinske, who I used to think was edgy, who has become a Biden bro. I am. But the thing about it is, there is hope for people like me who were so attached to the Bernie movement so long. Because I was thinking about not voting in this election. And y'all know who I'm going to vote for in this election now. And that is Cornel West. I'm not saying y'all have to. That's who I'm supporting. I hope that all of you who are listening to me will consider voting for Cornel West. I'm not saying you have to, but I would love for y'all to consider voting for Cornel West, because he's got the ideas, he's got the platforms, and he's got the values, and he's got the judgment that it takes to be president. And I wish that it could be that he could become president. No way I will vote for Joe Biden in 2024. He has not earned my vote, not one bit. Joe Biden will never get my vote. Now, if Joe Biden if Joe Biden would have not gotten us into the Ukraine-Russian conflict, and he would have gotten us a $15 hour minimum wage and built back better and a public option, we could talk. But it didn't happen. Joe Biden said there was going to be no fundamental changes. And that was the one thing Joe Biden kept his words on. No fundamental changes. He basically gave us more of the same. And it might be why. It might be his Achilles heel. His strength in 2020 was, I will give you normal back. America remembers normal. They didn't like normal. And so they may very well vote normal away. So, 2024, we got what? We got a primary also on the Republican side, but there's really not going to be a Democratic primary because they're just bold about how they like to rig it. They're like, yeah, fuck y'all. We're just not going to have a primary. Biden's our man. Hell with Marianne Williamson. Hell with Robert Kennedy. And the more they do that, the more I respect Marianne Williamson and Robert Kennedy, even though I will never vote for them because they're doing this inside of a political party. And I got some ideological differences with Marianne Williamson, and I got some ideological differences with Robert Kennedy. But I also passionately agree with Robert Kennedy and Marianne Williamson a hell of a lot more than I do Joe Biden by a long shot. But the Republicans are going to have a primary. Now, Donald Trump is not going to participate in it, but, one of his chief rivals, Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida, is like one of the big favorites among the large name candidates. There are other candidates running. And frankly, there are non-issues because if it ain't going to be Trump, it's going to be Ron DeSantis. And Russell Dobular from Due Dissidents have predicted a long time that it's going to be Ron DeSantis. And the way that he's predicted it's going to be Ron DeSantis is sort of the way it sort of makes sense that it's going to be. He even predicted that it's possible that Ron DeSantis might be our next president, which will be a disaster if it happens. Much worse than Trump. Much worse than Joe Biden, mind you. Ron DeSantis becoming president is the worst scenario you can imagine. This will be George W. Bush's third term, but further right. It will be everything that I despise about George W. Bush and Dick Cheney without the comedy show that Donald Trump provided. That will be the DeSantis presidency. And that's a truly scary scenario. But having that said, I'm going to vote my hopes, not my fears. And I'm going to vote for Cornel West because I refuse to feel dirty. I live in a red state. And even if my state was going to be a deciding factor, I will still vote for Cornel West because Democrats, you got to earn my vote. I don't have to acquiesce to the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party has to acquiesce to the left. It's not that we have to sit there and to acquiesce to the Democratic Party whims and needs as is. They have to acquiesce to us, the left. We're better than the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. And that's where it stands. Fuck the Republicans and fuck the Democratic Party. It is the left that is important. It is the left that needs to win. And if the Democrats can't get on with the left, then fuck them. Honestly. That's where I stand. Make no apologies. You deserve to lose if you're going to say fuck the left. And the Democrats do a very good job of saying fuck the left all my life. They're very bold about saying fuck the left. Now, I know there are people, Republicans say, what you talking about? All they do is cater to the left. And that's because the right are a bunch of retards anyway. But suffice to say. Now, you got a situation there where I'm losing my train of thought here. If I can find the photo right there. Sorry about that, folks. AOC. AOC's taking up exception to Cornel West running. AOC is no longer a socialist. She's a joke. Now, are there things about AOC that I like? Even now, I can say there are things about AOC that I like. But she's been a disappointment. You're busting rail strikes. You're voting for military funds to the Ukraine war. You won't do a forced vote for Medicare for all. You don't challenge the military-industrial complex at all. You won't do anything to fight for Build Back Better. And then all you know how to do is to go and do a speech saying how bad Republicans are. AOC, you don't need to do that. We know they are. We know where they stand. And you sit there and you go and do this little jumping up and down, and you take your little address book and you smack it on your little podium and walk away. You deserve an award for your performance, really. You deserve an award for the way you're a great actress, AOC. Bravo, bravo. You're beautiful. You're sexy, but you're a sorry sellout. And I wouldn't vote for you if if I lived in your district. I promise you, I would not vote for you. I would just not vote if I lived in your district, unless there's a Green Party candidate. I would vote for the Greens. But suffice to say, you're having a conniption about Cornel West. Well, there's a Newsweek article here from Newsweek. Cornel West is too big of a risk for Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. So, hold on, let me get rid of this little block, this little ad there. Okay, since this announcement of a 2024 presidential bid in June, supporters of a third-party candidate, Cornel West, have framed his long-shot campaign as a historic opportunity to elevate the progressive ideals they felt establishment figures like President Joe Biden have long ignored. However, even close allies like Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez are appearing reluctant to step behind him, saying the temptation of a left-wing challenge to Biden is not worth the risk of a second Donald Trump presidency. Show me the answers, AOC. What should be done? Doing nothing, and then the country gets further and further right? Speaking to the Hill over the years, the progressive New York congressman, speaking to the Hill over the weekend, the progressive New York congresswoman and close philosopher ally of West expressed reservations about his campaigns after a recent decision to change his affiliation to the Green Party, a reprise of former candidate Jill Stein's ill-fated run for the presidency in 2016 that quote unquote, and I'm putting the quotes in there, hope Trump wins the White House. Jill Stein did not get Trump into the White House. Do I need to repeat that? I will go and tell you why in a moment. Quote, I think he has a very long record of service and academic thought leadership, Ocasio-Cortez said of West. I just right now, given the Electoral College, it's very difficult to square the very real threat of a Republican presidency with the risk of giving up the very small margin of electoral votes needed to ensure that Biden wins. Okay. Give me some solutions, AOC. You're very short on solutions. While West, an academic and a philosopher with no experience in elected office, has always been considered a long shot, his candidacy comes amid a highly polarized electoral environment, which experts says a third-party candidate could draw a sizable share of independent votes, denying Democrats the swing votes that they have traditionally needed to win. I'm going to say something about that in a minute. The environment is so fraught that that groups like Third Way, fuck Third Way, by the way, a center-left think tank that has pushed for both parties to return to the ideological middle. What? The status quo? Have criticized efforts by other groups, no labels, to promote a third-party effort for the presidency, arguing that any additional candidates in the race would serve as spoilers to Trump's benefits. While West boosters have argued that that his support would likely come exclusively from voters on the progressive left, which are predominantly focused on larger cities and states that rarely have implications on the electoral college analysis. With Third Way told Newsweek even that reasoning is dangerous, citing that small margins of victory reported in other battleground states like Arizona, Michigan, and Wisconsin. Once you get to the general election, this is going to be a race or thin race, said Jim Kessler, executive vice president of the policy of Third Way. Joe Biden can't afford to lose votes in Atlanta or Phoenix or Philadelphia or Milwaukee or Detroit. There's no margin in those states. Joe Biden won 6 states by less than 2 points the last time. Okay, first, if you want the Democrats to be the only choice, you got to do this, Democrats. You got to go return to your FDR roots, and you got to go and take a shit on the Bill Clinton path of being Democrats. You got to fuck this Third Way nonsense, and you got to fuck it. You got to say, no, we're not going to go with this Third Way nonsense. And 2, this whole notion of, well, they're just going to ruin everything. A third party's just going to ruin everything. You know what you Democrats sound like? You sound like these crybaby Republicans in the 1990s when H. Ross Perot ran in 1992 and 1996, because they said the same thing. Well, when Ross Perot ran for president, it took votes away from George Bush in 1992, and it took votes away from Bob Dole in 1996, and we got stuck with Slick Willie. That's what you Democrats sound like. You sound that dumb. You Democrats and Republicans, why don't you believe in competition? You're scared. You're scared. You got to go and work a little harder to reach out to voters. Who made you both gods that you got to have just Democrats and Republicans in charge? Really? So this whole notion that we just got to have this two-party system and never a third choice. Well, for the Democrats, let me tell you. 1, well, for both parties, we should have a multiple party system. I would like to see ranked choice voting in every state in this country. And 2, we got to open up our electoral system, because the two-party system keeps the Overton window to the right. We open up the electoral system to make it more friendly to third parties. You know what's going to happen? The country's going to shift further left. It's going to shift further left. You're going to see more union-friendly attitudes from our politicians. You're going to see more receptions toward universal health care and the free college movement, that sort of thing. And the oligarchy doesn't want that. And as long as we have a two-party system, we're not going to have universal health care. We're not going to have free college. And we're going to see unions continue to decline. And we're going to see this country just be what it is currently, a pile of shit. And, I don't care to see the Democratic Party advance if they're not going to do anything except be the Republican Party at 55 miles an hour. And that's basically what the Democrats are. They're the Republican Party at 55 miles an hour. You think that I am excited by that? I'm not. We don't need this shit. I don't need Democrats. And here's the thing. All these people who think you need Democrats or even any political party. I mean, there are ways you need to go beyond electoral politics anyway. And I know I talk a lot about electoral politics, but it all comes down to mutual aid. And if you're lucky enough to belong to a union, to try to go and work within your union to make your union more democratic, more accountable, put more militancy in your unions. It's going to take, it's going to take more street action. While Democrats were urging people not to do Medicare for All marches 2 years ago, was all the more reason why Medicare for All marches was necessary. There weren't enough Medicare for All marches, and we need a general strike. Now we have had a general strike for the past couple of years since. Starting with COVID, an unofficial one, people not going back to work. And it's a beautiful thing because it's forced the wages to go up in spite of us not having a $15 an hour minimum wage. And I think it's a good thing. And I'm glad that private companies are inconvenienced over this. Well, people don't want to work anymore. God, I hate that slogan. People just don't want to work anymore. But anyway, I want to cause as much trouble as I can to the system, and if we can't cause the change, cause as much uncomfort, and cause them as much stress as possible. Stress them out. Give them something to think about. Now, I don't mean anything unlawful. I don't mean anything unlawful or what have you. But what I do mean is through direct action, nonviolent protests, peaceful protests, worry the fuck out of them. Just irritate them. Irritate the powers that be. But I want to end up with this note that, Cornel West is running. You think he's the only person that could potentially take votes away from Joe Biden? What about this motherfucker? What about Joe Manchin? Possibly running on the No Labels party. Now, if he runs on No Labels, you know what that means? And this is the scenario that I predict will happen. He runs on No Labels. You have Cornel West. You have Joe Biden. All, I guess, sort of vaguely, he's not a leftist in any sense or shape or form. I'm talking about Joe Manchin, but Joe Manchin will appeal to voters in the Democratic Party who feel like the Democratic Party is just too far left under Joe Biden, but they just can't stomach voting for Donald Trump or Ron DeSantis. They'll go and vote for this clown. And then people will vote for Cornel West. And then Joe Biden would lose, presumably. And then whichever Republican wins, whether it would be Donald Trump, if he's not in jail, or whether it would be Ron DeSantis. Watch this scenario that they will blame Cornel West and not blame Joe Manchin. That's my guess of what they're going to do. They will blame Cornel West and not blame Joe Manchin. They'll go and blame Bernie Sanders, and they'll go back in time and they'll blame Ralph Nader. They'll somehow blame Ralph Nader, Jill Stein, Bernie Sanders, and Cornel West, and somehow blame Russia while we're at it, because that's what they like to do. That's what they like to do. They'll do that. So you guessed it. They will do that. They will go ahead and do that sort of. They'll do that sort of thing. And we're in the second Cold War right now. I mean, so it's funny. It's funny how it's worked out this way. And I mean, I now sound like I'm all over the place, but believe me, I know I'm making sense mentally. I know I'm making sense of what I'm saying here, and that's because I am. Because that's exactly what. Hey, I just know how these people operate over the years. I just seen them. I've just seen how they operated, and it's just frustrating as hell. So we're going to be in a situation where they're going to blame Russia, as they like to do, and that's the new scapegoat right now. 20 years ago was blame the Muslims. Today it's blame Russia. Oh, you think that's going to come to an end with Ron DeSantis in the White House? You realize Ron DeSantis, unlike Donald Trump, Ron DeSantis is a neoconservative from the Bush-Cheney era. Bush-Cheney style conservative neocons hate Russia just as much as the shit lives. They'll continue it. And while the shit lives and the neocons are going to battle it out, they're going to go against the left. So my prediction is, at the end of the day, that they will blame Cornel West, the entire left, and Russia for the Democrats being defeated in 2024, for Joe Biden's defeat. That's where we're at in the United States. That's how ass backwards we are. Daniel Berry Sports highlights. How are you doing today? Snipe Hunter, how are you doing, my friend? And I want to let you all know that fairly soon we'll have a YouTube channel set up for Ragland's program. Jimi Sunderland and myself will be co-hosting. Probably we're thinking about September 1st. So working on that right now. And do support her. She does the graphics for my program. Do go ahead and find her platforms down in the description box below and support her. Follow her on Twitch. Follow her on YouTube. Follow her all her platforms. And so to build her channels. Also follow me as well. My Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, all of that same sort of thing as well. And on Tuesday at 4:00, I will be interviewing Dolores Pierce from D Around the World with Friends. Again, it will be a second attempt. So anyway, I am going to go right now, and I will talk to each and every one of you later. And bye-bye.